So I guess we'll just get it started off right away, Ryan. Just tell us about life in the bubble.
Life in the bubbles, considering everything that's happened, has been very good. I think the G League has done a very good overall job. Uh, the hotels are nice. The internet is very fast. The food is pretty solid. I think everything that you could expect out of a bubble, it's been very good, obviously, with the good location. Um, each person is different. I'm a little bit of a psychopath. So the fact that it's basketball all day long and good internet and free food and, outside of my family, I've really enjoyed it. I happen to be, and I know I'm very strange. I'm not a person that needs a day off or a day away from basketball. I can kind of do it every day all year long. For some of the other people within the bubble that aren't a psychopath like me, you can see it gets to be tough because everyone's away from, they're sacrificing to be here, but in everyone's life, they have someone that is sacrificing for them to be here. And so you can begin to see that kind of weigh a little bit on players and staff members. And, I think what each team here has tried to do is different things. We've tried to have team dinners. We've tried to, watch the Super Bowl together. I believe tonight we'll watch a UFC fight together. We've tried to, be in the pool and do as many different things that we can, to try to help with the mental release part of it, of being able to get away. But in terms of life in the bubble compared to what people are doing in the real world and what they have to go through, it's been amazing.
Yeah. And actually, one of the questions that we got asked prior to was, working with staff and working with the players and being so close with them in the bubble. Has that brought a sense of a different sense of camaraderie together, being so close and having, everybody together in this location, or what has that been like as well?
Yeah, in many ways it has, because you got guys spending extra time together off the court, as well, playing different card games, board games, Monopoly games. I think as a staff, with the character of our staff, it's helped progress relationships. Coach Mike Williams and Amber Nichols came in, and I didn't know them at all, and I would leave the bubble feeling extremely close with them, and not just on a professional side, but on a personal side. They're people you really enjoy being with. So I think in some ways it has sped up the relationship building that happens among staff and players throughout the course of a season, because different organic situations are created because of the circumstances and environment that can help a team bond and grow together, or break and drift apart. And I think for different teams in the G League, it's happened different ways. You start to see really talented teams begin to break and drift apart, and that can be reflected, in their record. And you see some other teams that are able to band and get together and go on 6, 7, 8, 9 game win streaks, and then you can hit peaks in terms of what your chemistry is, and then one injury or one bad loss, now you're on shaky ground. And so I think in many ways it's been a unique set of challenges in terms of chemistry amongst different staff members on teams and players. But for us, I think it's gone very well.
That's great. It's got to be tough, having played 15 games in 23 days, and the short time span from getting the guys together, getting them down to the bubble and starting play. What have some of those struggles been, and how have you adjusted to that to be able to still get the most out of the guys? And, as we're seeing 11-4 on the season and a playoff push.
I think obviously it's very obvious the physical tolls that it's going to take on players' bodies. We're seeing on multiple teams, multiple guys get injured. For us, we have 4 players that have missed a lot of games due to injuries in the bubble, which totally changes the dynamic of your team. And it's like on our team, and as talented as a team can be, if you take away the best, it's going to impact your team in many ways. But what people don't realize is the mental aspect. Like the ability for the players to stay mentally fresh and focus throughout a game. I think as the bubble progresses, the longer away from their families, it becomes harder and harder because each person is dealing with their set of unique circumstances at home that weighs on them. And then it's the same routine. You walk the same path to the same cafeteria, to the same team room, to your room. There's not much.
Goodbye.
And I think the mental aspect and the focus level is where you see the impact. And we try to stay positive. I think in situations where when a normal course of a season that you can kind of hammer guys and really get on them and be hard, you can't really do here, because you have to be aware of the certain circumstances of, if guys get a negative feeling, you basically play almost every other day or a back-to-back. If guys have that negative feeling going into the game, then how is it going to impact their performance in the game? So you got to really try to stay focused on being positive and inspiring them to improve, without bringing too much negativity. You have to tell them the truth without being a jerk about it.
Mm-hmm. And even going about that, as you said, not only the physical, but the mental toll and everything that it's taken on the guys. How have you tried to recoup and relax and kind of break the mental and the physical stress of the season on off days or in between games? And how have some of the guys found ways to kind of recoup and relax and try and find some sort of break, because the season has been so constricted and so tight in these many games played in this short of an amount of time?
Yeah, for me, I just watch more film. I love basketball. I don't need a break.
Mm-hmm.
If I really need a break, I just watch European basketball. But for me, it's staying status quo. I don't mentally. I'm fine. I don't need a break. I enjoy, what I do, and I've been fortunate enough to live around the world, and I'm fortunate enough to have family and friends that have real problems. Real world problems, and living in a bubble in a cushy hotel. I mean, that's every kid's dream, to live for 7 weeks at Disney World and coach basketball. I mean, for me, it's the understanding of what's happening in the real world, what other people are actually going through, that allows us to coach a game and be in a bubble. And I think for our players, it's different, because the pressures on them is different than, for me. And, what is happening for them in their careers and where they're at and what the purpose of the G League is different. So I think for them, they spend a lot of time, playing games, some of that together, Monopoly and Uno, and then they spend a lot of time playing video games and, watching movies and everything that they can within a confined, bubble. You'll see them out at the pool, you'll see them go for a walk, but a lot of things that they have to do, unfortunately, are kind of confined to their rooms individually, because there's only one part of a bubble indoor that you can really be together, and that's a team room. And then, they have ping pong tables and, other things outside that they can play.
I gotcha. We're going to open it up to some of the fans that had submitted questions prior to, and then we will open up some questions later for fans that are in the chat now to ask you questions, Ryan. So this one was actually submitted anonymously, but what was up with the Popeye shirt you were wearing at practice the other day? Is there any significance? Are you a big fan of the show?
Yeah, when we were playing the G League Ignite and we were up 40, and I challenged a call. They called a blocking foul on Caleb Holmesley, and we thought it was a charge. And in the playoffs, your point spread matters. So, like right now, we're in like a 4-way tie for second, and it's going to come down to the tiebreakers based off how much you won and lost games against playoff opponents and head-to-heads. And so I challenged a call, at the time, because I was told that you had quarter points, so the G League didn't actually put out like what the tiebreakers were till after the G League Ignite game. Mm-hmm. One of the things they talked about was for each quarter you win, you get a quarter point, which goes into the tiebreakers. Well, we were only up one that quarter, so I challenged a call. Like the first 3 games we've been coaching, we were like, yeah, what are the quarter points? We have to win the quarter. Well, we were up 40, but we were only up one in the quarter, so I challenged a call. They didn't like that. So Jarrett Jack, had gotten really upset. It was like this Popeye-looking MFer. And I responded. I said, Popeye, you and I got the same haircut. I just make it look better. And so as a result, I bought a Popeye T-shirt to wear when I thought the team needed a good laugh. So I thought that practice, we needed a very good laugh, so I had ordered a Popeye shirt to try to save it for the right time.
That's a great callback to the Ignite game, and I'm sure the guys got a great laugh out of that. We're getting lots of laughing in the chat as well too from people here. So
Jack was funny too. So.
Oh, good. So another question that we had too that was brought into the chat this is from Tyler Chang. How do you navigate the balance between adjusting to your opponent, but also not going away from what you're good at during a game?
Well, I mean, I think first, and especially in a environment like this where you can't really practice. Okay, so your focus has got to be on you. If you're trying to adjust an opponent, like last night, if you watch us play, our low man on defense, which would be the person furthest away from the basketball, is supposed to be over to contain drives. We're getting cut. We're giving up offensive rebounds, right? So like if you're not executing your system, you can't make an adjustment to an opponent. So one, I think it comes down to how well we're executing our system. And then two, you can make subtle adjustments, like we had some adjustments in the OKC game in the way that we were defending pick and rolls with our first round draft pick, which we created a few turnovers off of. And so I think your first focus has always got to be you, because if you're not executing your system well, then to worry about a game adjustment is secondary. And so, in timeouts, we try to make adjustments to our pick and roll coverage, to what plays we're going to run, who we're going to try to attack on defense. In terms of game prep without practice and shoot around, it's difficult to get too elaborate because you have to focus on execution first. And, I think we're better off being really good at what we do and executing that, as opposed to trying to adapt to something for what another team does.
Actually, awesome insight. And then we have one last question that we're going to ask that was submitted prior before we open the floor. And while we're asking this question, everybody, if you feel free to put your question in the chat, and then we will call on you and you can ask Coach yourself the question. So feel free to put those in the chat right now. The last question, though, Coach, that was submitted, you actually mentioned it, a way that you kind of get a little release is watch some EuroLeague basketball. And people know you're a big fan of EuroLeague basketball, but which league in general do you think is the best?
EuroLeague.
EuroLeague?
EuroLeague is the best basketball in the world. Everyone knows this. Right, Mike? Yeah, Mike agrees.
Why is that?
Because the rules are different. In the NBA, the rules are designed for scoring for fans, right? Like everything in the NBA is designed to create a better fan experience, a better high-scoring game, more exciting, more highlights to draw more fans, right? And as a result, I think that it oftentimes in the North American game in general, throughout high school, middle school, AAU, college, the game is taught on an individual aspect, to where in Europe, the game is taught as a team game. Everything is about the team. Everything is about winning. In Europe, the mentality is every game is win now. So like when people are like, oh, the pressures of being a G League coach, compared to coaching in Europe, there is no pressure, because you can sign a 3-year deal in Europe and get fired in the preseason for losing too many games. So the pressure to win is higher. The pressure to compete in every possession is higher, because in the NBA, you have 82 games, right? So it's like in the G League, you can't get guys bogged down about losing a game, right? Because you have to focus on the next game. And so as a result, there's things that when you play that many games in such a short amount of time, the value of each possession drops to where, like, EuroLeague, lose a game, might get fired, so the pressure's high. So I love the pressure aspect. I love the team component of it. I like the way that the ball moves. I like the player movement. And if you look at the top teams in the NBA, it's something they talk about all the time. We want to, have the European ball movement, the European player movement. So,
yeah. Well, appreciate the insight. I'm sure those that are watching also appreciate knowing more about EuroLeague basketball as well.
I'm on a mission.
The first question that we had submitted was from Julie. Julie, if you want to hop off of mute and ask Coach, feel free to.
My question is, did the in-person games resume?
In the NBA or in the EuroLeague?
In both.
Yeah. So in the NBA, I think 50% of the teams can have a minimum amount of fans at the games. And then in the EuroLeague, it's the same thing. Like most countries have some form of small fans going to the games.
Okay. All right, perfect. Thank you for answering my question, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Robert, if you want to hop off of mute and ask Coach yours too.
Yeah, so you guys are in the bubble. You haven't had a ton of practice time, but your team has had one of the most efficient offenses in the tournament. How were you able to accomplish that, do you think, with the lack of practice time?
Talented players. We have very talented players that, I think we overall play very unselfish, and, we try to have a focus on spacing and unselfishness. And, we have a rule on our team that if you make a mistake, make it with unselfishness and effort. And so, I think when you have a talented group of guys that are bought in on passing the ball to each other, your offense is going to be efficient. We try to, once again, focus a little bit more on what we're running and how we're running it. And, I'd say as the course of it's gone on with less practice time, the further you get away from your preseason training camp where you were able to have 4 practices. I think it's, it kind of drops at times in game. Like we were trending very high, and then it's been a slow progression up, because of the lack of it. But we just try to stay focused on our core character principle of what we want as an offensive team.
Just as a follow-up, do you think that being in the bubble helps with the players blocking out some of the noise and also being able to go with your directive, or do you think that's not as useful?
Yes and no, because they're, for the players, right, each player has maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a significant other, maybe it's a best friend. They have someone that they can communicate with, right, and open up with and express their feelings with in person. And that person, right, can be a calm and impact on their life. And then they also have the ability to get out and get away from basketball and to have the mental release. So I think in some cases, there's not someone directly in their ear, but they're still getting all of the same phone calls, all of the same distractions. And, then they also don't have the person-to-person interaction or the place that they can go to get away and refresh mentally.
Thank you.
We have a question from Herbie. Herbie, if you want to hop off of mute and ask Coach.
Where's Clutch and how's the weather down there?
Where's Clutch? Is that what you asked, Herbie?
Yeah.
Clutch, I believe, is in Erie. He is not here, but my son wishes he was. That was the best part of going to the games for my son. But Clutch is not here. If he was here, I think we'd be undefeated.
And how's the weather?
How's the weather?
Yeah.
Ooh, Florida's tough to beat in the winter, Herbie. You got to come down, do a little sunbathing, hit the beach. It's the weather's been amazing. We have really, really good weather.
And can we have a matchup on a bowling?
A rematch on bowling. He remembers bowling with you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I will lose because I'm terrible. My father was a great bowler. He was good enough to be professional. And when I was young and he was trying to teach me, he would just yell at me all the time because I wouldn't do it right. So yeah, we can. You will win. I guarantee that. I'll be throwing it in the gutter.
No, just show it.
And guys, feel
any-
free to.
Oh, Herbie, that's nice. Yeah, I liked it. You want to be a coach when you grow up?
Yeah, I use it when you play. When you
Use it
take
when I
time out.
That's awesome. We'll have to draw up some plays together. You can do some good ATOs for the playoffs.
Yeah. Thank you.
We actually have another question from Rob. Rob, if you want to hop off and ask Coach again.
So who are we rooting for?
Everyone knows whenever you're doing public speaking, you always pay the one guy to ask a lot of questions. So it seems like he wants to know, and that happens to be my best friend from childhood. So he's paid to be here to make me look good.
Yeah, no, but who are we rooting for and rooting against? Like, who are we going to play in the first game? And I know right now our seedings are anywhere from 1 to 5. We don't have any more games, but there's some games today. Does the team have a preference matchup wise? Is it just bring on the challenge?
Preference for Toronto, Santa Cruz, Austin, and Delaware to all lose today so we can finish first.
Okay.
I've got some big prayers up here. But, I mean, matchup-wise, I mean, it's you just don't know what you're going to get. I mean, we can finish anywhere from 1st to 5th, so we have no idea.
And do we think Jordan's going to be healthy enough to play?
Don't know.
Jordan Bell?
Yeah, we're not sure. He's working very hard to get back. You know, he's doing everything that he can. We have great trainers. They're doing everything they can. You know, it's just believe it'll be a game time decision.
Thanks.
We also had another question that was asked, and I forgot to bring it up prior. What does planning for a playoff game look like compared to planning for a regular season game? Is there a difference there? And how do you try to strategize around, still not knowing who the team is going to be, but still game planning and getting prepared for that game on Monday?
Yeah, I mean, typically for a game, what we do is we'll go through and we'll have the personnel, so all of the tendencies of the players. And we have the video, we send everything to their phone. We have their offensive main play calls and sets that they're doing their high frequency use. And then we try to have a game plan to attack them defensively. Like, how do we want to attack this specific team? What are their weaknesses? And we'll put together a video showing, okay, in the pick and roll, the way that they help off the defense is this way. So we want to utilize this play call or this tactic to attack them. We want to look at a lot of off-ball cuts. Okay, we're the 3rd worst transition defense, so make or miss. We want to get the ball out quick. And so that kind of goes into your typical game plan. And so the difference that we will do for the personnel, it will be more in depth. Hopefully, if it's an opponent we will have played, we'll show more personnel clips against us for things that they wanted to do well in the first game and they did, and things that they wanted to do well in the first game and that we took away. So we'll show a little bit more clips of what they want to do and then how we want to stop what they're doing. We'll show a little bit more clips of same thing, how to attack them tactically, what we want to do, how we want to do it, the way that we want to attack whatever way that they play defense. We will print out the scouting reports so they have it in their hand. We normally just send it to their phone, but we're just trying to think of different ways that can get them to do to get them to be fresh mentally, and if you get in the same pattern which we're in and what we're doing and how we're doing it, we're going to try to change the pattern of it to stimulate thinking and hopefully retainment. And then in terms of the approach of what we want, it's really getting more engagement probably in the film session. So the way that we phrase questions will be a little bit different.
Gotcha. And then we have one more question, and fans, feel free to submit any more questions into the chat before we kind of reach the conclusion. We'll still open it up for a couple more minutes after. But what's the main thing that you miss about playing in front of a home crowd, and especially Erie? I know you've had 2 stints. You were here, past as an assistant, and then last season was your first year as head coach. What do you miss about basketball being played in front of a home crowd, but more specifically Erie?
I mean, the most important thing is the fans, because you have a game like last night where we defended decently well in the first half. We could have done some things better. And then in the second half, as the guys are getting down mentally and the energy's dropping, to be able to have the fan support. I mean, Erie has one of the better fan attendances in the G League, to really cheer you on and bring that energy back to your players. And I think that is like the biggest thing that you miss, especially in home games, is having the crowd there that can bring energy. And I think that's a huge advantage of being in Erie. The commitment of the fans to the team and the city, I think, is a lot higher than a lot of other G League cities. And I mean, it's a totally different game without fans. And you're trying to get the guys energized and ready to go, but it's interesting the impact how much fans have on that.
And I know we miss you back out in Erie too, Coach. It's definitely weird not having basketball being played in Erie, Pennsylvania right now. So,
oh yeah.
We have one final question from West Virginia men's basketball, actually. So during a practice, how much of practice is spent on individual player development versus overall team play?
So I can give 2 answers, one in the bubble and one typically not in the bubble. In the bubble, we don't practice. So it's very simple. Yeah, I mean, you can't, like, today is a day off. Tomorrow we will have a walkthrough the day before the game, because you have to have the mentality of getting the players, bye Bobby, as fresh as possible. And fresh legs, fresh mind is going to give you the best chance to win. And so I would say throughout the course of the season, in a normal season, what we try to do is, let's say we have 12 players and we have 4 coaches. We try to split them into 2 groups. So group A would go through about a 30-minute to 40-minute skill workout, maybe 20-minute, depending on is there a game before or after, what's going on, but anywhere from 20 to 40-minute skill workout. Then we would practice anywhere from an hour to an hour 45, depending on the time of the season. And then group A would do weights after. Group B would do now player development for 20 to 40 minutes, and then they would lift after, and then we're done. So we try to spend anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes, as much one-on-one or one coach with 2 players every day of practice. And then practice is anywhere from an hour to hour 45, depending on the point of the season.
Thank you for the insight on that. And Coach, we have reached 10:30. Fans, will leave it for, one more question if anybody has any, but while we wait for the chat to open up, seriously, Ryan, thank you so much for hopping on today with all of us. We really appreciate the insight, getting to talk with the fans, getting to interact. Like I said, it's weird not having you guys around here, but we're rooting for you up here in Erie.
I appreciate it.